If everybody could please stand and remove your hats, we're going to have a honor guard post the colors. You can follow me in a pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order. Arms. Post colors. Right, please. Forward, arch.
You may be seated. The memory of September 11, 2001, terrorist attacks that claimed so many lives in New York, at the Pentagon, and in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, will never fully vanish. 13, 14 years later, the memorials that were held at Ground Zero and across North America on September 11th help us always remember and never forget. Honoring each of their lives, their service and sacrifice is profoundly important to everyone in the fire service and to the families of the fallen. Earlier this morning, San Antonio 110 9/11 Memorial Climb took place at the Tower of Americas. It is a very specific type of 9/11 memorial. There's a reason that it is not a 5K, a bike ride, or any other type of event. There's a reason it is specifically a climb, to pay tribute to the climb that our 343 fallen firefighter brothers in FDNY made on September 11, 2001. In honor of that sacrifice, that is why they climbed. If everybody could please stand, and we're going to observe just a moment of silence in honor of their sacrifice. Today we're honored to have the presence of a FDNY Lieutenant, Rico Diaz, and he's got some words that he's going to say.
Good afternoon. Thank you for all being here. Thank you for the dignitaries that are here. And I want to thank all of you for showing up. As Chris has said, this is an important day that we will not forget. As a member of the FDNY who was present on 9/11, I'm a 28-year veteran of the New York City Fire Department. I was present on that day to see my fellow comrades enter those buildings and follow them shortly after. 343 firefighters perished that day. And out of those 343, which are all my brothers as you are here, my brothers in arms as well, but 63 of those firefighters were personal friends of mine that I worked with and interacted with on a daily basis in different events in my life. You lose that amount of people in one place, it leaves a big hole. So on 9/11, New York today, 14 years later, there are numerous ceremonies that are going on in remembrance of the 9/11. So why am I here and not there? I am here as I was last year because I remember the guys from Texas, from Austin, from San Antonio, the firefighters that were on that mountain, on that pile along with me, helping us out. You guys made the journey. In New York, plenty of my brothers are paying respect to the rest of my brothers that are not here. But I am here to pay respect alongside of you because you are not forgetting us. You didn't forget us then, and you're not forgetting us now. And I truly am humbled, and I appreciate that. I will tell you that it doesn't get any easier to forget, and shouldn't, and I don't. I do remember them, and I always will. I went and served this country as well. Was activated shortly after 9/11, and I went to Afghanistan to pay back for what they delivered to us. I delivered some pain back to them. Now, we are still in the struggle. It has not ended. We must stay vigilant to everything that is going on. We cannot lose focus. And I appreciate, Chris, I appreciate San Antonio for the climb. It is very respectful not to let 9/11 become just another holiday and lose, or another event, an excuse to have an event and lose the true meaning of the day. This country on 9/11 united like it's never seen before. We were all one. We were not white, we were not black, we were not Spanish, we were Americans, and we stuck together, and we pulled together, and we made it happen. We were resilient, and we stayed the course. And I don't want you to, this is the message for 9/11. In addition, if we can remember anything, remember that. Now, there's a lot of numbers that we can throw out, and 343 firefighters did die on that day. But the number that's being forgotten, and sometimes we forget, is that there's an additional, over 110 additional firefighters from New York City that have succumbed to illnesses, disabilities, and cancer. And the struggle continues, and that number continues to grow. At headquarters at 9 Metro Tech, there is a wall dedicated with the 343 names of the firefighters that paid the ultimate price that day. But they have also added another over 100 names to that wall. So in addition to, if you ever come to New York to visit the World Trade, visit the monument there, visit 9 Metro Tech, and you'll see for yourself, and you can bless it there. I am honored to be here with you. I am honored to support you as you have supported us. and I look forward to always being your brother in arms. I thank you for this privilege. God bless.
Thank you, Lieutenant Diaz, for coming here today and sharing your experiences. You know, all of those guys he talks about, you know, they were sons and daughters. They were parents, friends, neighbors, and coaches. Each had their own unique story, and each of them sacrificed everything, whether they died in New York at Ground Zero, or while fighting a wildfire, or in a building collapse, or from one of the insidious diseases contracted over a career of exposure in this profession, where loss is part of the job. It is our duty to honor and reflect on each loss in each life. To honor the legacy of the fallen, I believe it is also our duty to honor the heroism of those still pulling their shifts. Honoring firefighters and paramedics who perform above and beyond their duty. These firefighters are unselfish in placing the needs of the citizens above their own lives. Where 2,606 people died on that fateful day in that high-rise building in New York City, San Antonio had its own high-rise building tragedy on December 28, 2014, with 6 deaths. That morning, San Antonio firefighters were called to assist Castle Hill's fire at the Wedgewood apartments. Without regard for themselves, these firefighters went straight to work, fighting fire and saving lives. And there are lots of written accounts of what happened. You have a lot of third-party accounts of what they were told happened. Today, we hope that you get to hear directly from some of the firefighters that were on the scene, that were in that building with full gear and SCBAs on, carrying victims on their shoulders to safety, doing CPR, and other real-life fireground activities. Firefighters, these firefighters performed exemplary, above and beyond the call of duty. But before we meet and hear from them, there are several firefighters that went into that structure, the Wedgewood apartments, and did an excellent job in extinguishing fires, rescuing residents, and saving lives. Doing all of this under the threat and fear of a building collapse and losing their life. Castle Hills Fire Department was first on the scene. Chief, please stand. Gerald Rydell. Thank you, sir. Balcones Heights Fire assisted. Chief Brock Ward. There was the Barabo Verde Fire Department, Alamo Heights Fire Department, Chavano Park Fire Department, Almas Park Fire Department, Leon Valley Fire Department. For the San Antonio Fire Department, I'm just going to read off a list of just some of those. No, I'm not going to hit all, and I'm going to get a call later. Hey, he didn't mention my name, but we do have a list of some of those that were in that building rescuing people, doing their job. Engine 19, Lieutenant Alan Trejo. Engineer Jeff Stebbins. Firefighter Andrew Cameron. Firefighter Joseph Brown. Engine 17, Lieutenant Ryan Hartman. Engineer Craig Williams. Firefighter Bradford Boyman. Engine 31, Lieutenant Dean Solis. Engineer Daniel Rodriguez. Firefighter Michael Borrego. Firefighter Matthew Myers. Ladder 17, Lieutenant Bradford Neely. Engineer James Hoyo. Firefighter Leah Eberly. Firefighter Lauren Bianek. Ladder 37, Lieutenant David Prado. Engineer Michael Deisel. Firefighter Jordan Hovda, firefighter Clinton Johnson. Engine 28, they were in the lobby, actually performed CPR on 2 victims. Captain Christopher Casals, acting engineer Omar Mercado, firefighter Christopher Fink, firefighter Roland Castro. Incident command technician Jesse Davila, and incident command in that initial time period was Battalion Chief Walter Yates. I also want to mention Platform 32. Platform 32, Captain Mark Hasso, engineer Brian Inclon, firefighter Timothy Harmon, firefighter Dustin Ackland. Recognizing this crew for their conspicuous gallantry and extraordinary acts of heroism as the first recipients of the San Antonio Professional Firefighters Association Medal of Valor at this, our first Heroes Recognition Ceremony. First firefighter you're going to hear from was the engineer Brian Inclon that operated the aerial platform and plucked over 10 people off of balconies and windows of the high-rise. Brian.
I gotta lower this down for me, I'm a little shorter. Well, like you said, my name's Brian Inclon, and formerly the engineer of Platform 32. And like Krista was saying, there was a lot of fire crews that did a lot of good work that day, and I won't take anything away from them, but we're here to recognize Captain Mark Hosso and firefighter Dustin Ackland. The heroics of what they did can never be spoken about enough. These guys really went above and beyond, and we all go into this job wanting to do well, you know, and it's our culture of firefighting not to brag about ourselves. And earlier today I was talking to Captain Hasso, and I was asking him who he may have invited, who he told about this, and he replied with no one. I said, why? He said, well, that'd be bragging. That's just the way our guys are. You know, they're not going to stand up and toot their own horn. So when I learned about this award that was to be given, and I got to say thanks to Lieutenant Dan Dickerson, he's really a big part of pushing this through. I don't think Chris Steele for allowing me to come up here and say a few words about all this. I knew that I had to say something, because I had to brag about my guys, because I know that they won't do it as much as anyone else will. I did something similar to this years ago in training, and I wanted to relay the story of how difficult this could really be. And about 20 years ago, I was in a fire academy class, and we were doing a rescue operation. 2 guys went in to rescue 2 pilots out of an aircraft, weighing about 150-pound dummies. And that in itself is a difficult and daunting task, but the hard part came in when you were finished with your evolution. You weren't allowed to take your gear off. And today, by today's standards in training, it's a little excessive, but you weren't allowed to take your gear off, your pack, your bottle, any of your gear. You just fell into a rotation. And after you were done pulling out your victims, you had to do other tasks. And there was no set time limit or how many times you had to go through this evolution. When you were done performing a task and the crew was done with the rescue, you loaded the victims back up and you got into the rotation and did it again. It just went on for, it seemed like hours. And every time a fire crew would start to falter and start to feel a little winded or tired, the instructor hammered home something that these guys have embedded in them, and that's that no one is there except for these guys. You are the hero. When those people who are inside, those pilots, those John Q and Jane Q Public, or dial 911, they expect to be saved. They expect those people in uniform, when that fire truck, that fire engine, that ambulance, that police car shows up, whoever's in that uniform puts all that fear and all that stuff aside and does their job. And you can't quit until it's done. Now, a lot of times we get into fire scenes where, you know, I want to say it's easier to say, hey, you know, we've gone through 1 bottle, we've gone through 2 bottles, and need to take a break. These guys didn't do that. Collectively, they looked back into that structure, into those hallways and up that stairwell and said, we're not done. We're going to keep going. I got one more little related relay story that kind of solidifies this, and that's to say that many years ago I played on a team where there was some grumbling about who was going to be a starter for our upcoming game. And the coach squashed all that by saying the cream will rise to the top. While our truck sat out in staging on the street looking upon the building and listening to all the radio traffic and looking up at the building, seeing all the smoke and seeing all the active crew stuff going on, we waited in anticipation for our turn to go, to be part of this rescue, to be a part and make a difference. And sure enough, when they called Platform 32 and gave us an assignment, we got after it. And our guys, Justin Ackland and Mark Hasso, time and time again, through several bottle changes, which is unheard of to go through one, but to go through 2 bottle changes, to keep going, to look at each other and say, we're not done. We got to go back into heavy smoke, fire conditions, knock down doors, and pull out people that need to be saved. Their families were dependent on our guys to do what they did. And for that, I'm grateful for what they did. The privilege to work with them. I'm no longer driving that platform. But the privilege to work with them. I'm honored to be here, and congratulations, guys.
Oh, wait. Oh, it was there. Right here, Journal of Emergency Medicine, the guy that just talked to you, Engineer Brian Incon, should have just left. There you go. That's him right there. Actually on that day, doing his job above and beyond. Now we have a slight video presentation, real quick.
Mark Hasso, Captain of San Antonio Fire Department.
Dustin Ackland, been with San Antonio for 4 years now.
I believe we got called on the second alarm was around 6 o'clock in the morning, I think, right around there. As we were driving over there, we saw some heavy black smoke coming from 410 and I-10 is where we were at. We could see the smoke already. As we made it to the second floor stairwell, it started getting pretty smoky. By the time we got to the 3rd floor, we had to go ahead and fully bunker up with a mask.
And that's where the first apartment, of course, you know, each one that we had to force, it's, you know, seemed like it took 2-3 blows, you know, to get through. You know, there was a patient in there, and we were able to drag her out into the hallway, subsequently take her down, out of the stairwell, and down to the lobby. So that was our first rescue. Cap and I looked at each other thinking, we got to go back up there, you know, there's no way we can tap out. And we ended up doing that for that whole hallway. Overall, there ended up being 6 patients that I remember that we, you know, were able to rescue.
The recognition is awesome. I mean, a lot of times we don't get recognized for the job that we do. It's a dangerous job, and we really appreciate what you guys have done for us. Just like to also remember that there was a lot of guys out there that day that put their lives on the line and did a hell of a job rescuing as many people as they did. So I just like to make sure that we don't forget about those guys. And really appreciate what you guys are doing for us. And hopefully it's something that will continue.
So the receipt of the Medal of Valor, we have Captain Mark Hasso and Firefighter Dustin Ackland. Come up, please. Councilman Warwick from City Council District 2, please come up, and Councilman Medina from City Council District 7. Y'all can.
Presented on this day, Friday, September 11, 2015, Captain Mark A. Hasso for conspicuous gallantry and extraordinary acts of heroism while saving multiple lives at the Wedgewood Fire on December 28, 2014. Thank you for your service.
To serve and protect. Presented on this Friday, September 11th, 2015, to firefighter Dustin R. Ackland for conspicuous gallantry and extraordinary acts of heroism while saving multiple lives at the Wedgewood Fire on December 28th, 2014. Thank you for your service.
Put that down. There's a couple more that we have here. We have a state representative, Rick Alindo, who he sponsored the legislation that forces them now to put sprinklers into those high-rise buildings. Thank you, Representative. We've got Senator Jose Menendez, and he's got something he wants to give and some words to say.
Thank you, Chris. I've got a couple of proclamations, but gentlemen, these proclamations we brought down from Austin for you. Just wanted to share a few remarks. And as I was listening to our friend from New York, Firefighter Diaz, whom I want to thank for making the trip and honoring us with your presence, both for your service in the fire department in New York and your service to our country. Thank you for everything you've done. I think almost every one of us here can remember where we were when we heard that terrible news on 9/11. And I think that it's so appropriate that we choose this day to recognize your heroic actions. Because on 9/11, it wasn't just the 343 lives, the men and women of the in the New York Fire Department. It was also the families, the spouses, the children, the loved ones, the mothers, the fathers, everyone that they lost, the friends. And so as I met Captain Hassel's lovely wife and their two children, their beautiful children, and I met Firefighter Ackland's wife and their little boy and mom and dad, I was thinking about that as I was listening, that every time you go into a burning building, you know, there's risk. And so your heroism, it's, while many of you describe as just a job, it's so much more than that. It's a job where you save lives, and 6 lives are here today, and the people who love them have their loved ones because of your actions. And I know that you're a part of a team, and that you work with a big team, and you're to be commended, but you made the decisions to go into that building, and you made the decision to go back up again, time and time again, until you rescued everyone on that hall. So that's why we're all here today, on an occasion where we all talk about how we should never forget what happened. I think it's appropriate that we remember what happened by honoring the actions when they come up, such as yours. So I'm going to read this resolution from the state of Texas. Whereas Captain Mark Hasso of the San Antonio Fire Department made heroic contribution to the rescue of senior citizens from a high-rise apartment fire on December 28, 2014. Whereas that morning, shortly after 6 a.m., Captain Hasso and fellow members of the aerial platform 32 were dispatched on the first alarm to a fire at Wedgewood Senior Apartments, an 11-story facility that housed numerous residents 55 and older. When the crew arrived at the site, it was assigned to conduct a search for survivors on the third floor where the fire had originated. Whereas despite intense heat and near zero visibility, Captain Hasso and another firefighter, Dustin Ackland, began a systematic sweep of the floor, feeling for doorways, forcing entry, and searching apartments over the course of a grueling hour. They rescued 6 individuals who had become trapped in their units, saving them from certain death. Because of the limited number of crews on the scene and the large number of residents in the building, the 2 men continued searching long past the time when they would have ordinarily been sent to rehab for medical monitoring, ultimately exhausting 2 entire SCBA cylinders. And whereas a 15-year veteran of the San Antonio Fire Department, Mark Hasso was born and raised in San Antonio. He graduated from Holmes High School in 1990, and then he served his country for 3 years as a member of the United States Army. Following his return to the Alamo City, he continued his education at San Antonio College, and in December 1999, he joined the San Antonio Fire Department. Subsequently assigned to the Arson Division, he completed the requisite training at the San Antonio Police Academy and went on to serve in the division for a number of years as an investigator and a supervisor, and he received promotion to captain in 2012. And since that time, he has been stationed at Firehouse 32. In all his endeavors, Captain Hasso finds inspiration in the love of his family, as well as the camaraderie that he shares with his fellow firefighters. Whereas the skill, courage, and tenacity that Captain Mark Hasso demonstrated in a truly harrowing situation reflected the highest ideals of the firefighting profession, and his efforts have earned him the respect and admiration of his peers and the gratitude of his community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Captain Mark Hasso be commended for his distinguished service with the San Antonio Fire Department service, exemplified by the search and rescue he conducted at the Wedgewood Senior Apartments, and that he be extended sincere best wishes for the future. Signed by myself, Senator Jose Menendez. Captain Hasso, I'm going to read Firefighter Ackland's, and I want you both to know that today we've asked that 2 flags be flown in your honor over the state capitol, and those will be presented to you at a later time so that we can get them back from Austin. So these will go along with these resolutions. Whereas Dustin Ackland of the San Antonio Fire Department made a heroic contribution to the rescue of the senior citizens from a high-rise apartment fire on December 28th, and this portion is exactly the same. The morning shortly after 6 a.m., Mr. Ackland, fellow members of Aerial Platform 32 were dispatched on the first alarm to the fire at Wedgewood, and despite intense heat and zero visibility, Mr. Ackland and other firefighters, Captain Mark Hasso, began a systemic sweep. Whereas a 2002 graduate of San Antonio College Fire Academy, Dustin Ackland embarked on his chosen vocation in 2005, which led him to Portland, Texas, and then to Universal City before he was accepted into the San Antonio Fire Training Academy, from which he graduated in 2011. In all of his endeavors, he's blessed by the love and support of his family, along with the camaraderie he shares with his fellow firefighters. The skill, courage, and tenacity that Dustin Ackland demonstrated in a truly harrowing situation reflected the highest ideals of firefighting profession, and his efforts have earned him the respect and admiration of his peers and the gratitude of his community. Therefore, be it resolved that Dustin Ackland be commended for his distinguished service with the San Antonio Fire Department, service exemplified by the search and rescue he conducted at the Wedgewood Senior Apartments, and that he be extended sincere best wishes for the future. It is an honor. There are a lot of things that we get to do, a lot of places where we were at medical school just a few minutes ago, and we're going back. But there, it was to recognize someone for academic achievement. Today, I want to thank you for allowing me to be a small part of recognizing you for putting potentially your best interests, your health at risk, in honor of saving other people. It is the greatest sacrifice that we put others before ourselves. And you, many times the word is used loosely, but you do exemplify what the word means when you talk about a hero. You are two true heroes. Thank you for your service.
So first of all, we need to definitely recognize everybody that was there that day. It wasn't just us. We got to thank Lieutenant Dickerson. Thank the union. I've got a summary that I typed up right after the incident. It's probably the best account that I have of the whole operation. If everybody doesn't mind, I'll take a couple minutes to read it, if I can get through it. This is the following account of responding to and operating through the Wedgewood Fire. I was assigned to the left side firefighter position on aerial platform 32. Our apparatus was dispatched for the mutual aid response at approximately 6:30 a.m. that morning on December. We responded with a 4-man crew and made scene to report to staging on Blanco Road. At that time, you could see dark gray smoke coming from the building. Shortly after, we received the order to enter the complex and follow engine 31 to the fire floor. So myself, I gathered irons, meaning axe and Halligan, and I packed up along with Cap and another firefighter that was on the back with us. Upon entering the front lobby, I visualized bystanders waving their arms and shouting for help on one of the higher floors there, where smoke was coming out of the windows. We made entry and proceeded to the stairwell closest to Blanco Road. We saw engine 31 already proceeding up the stairwell with the high-rise pack, so we followed them. We got to the fire floor, which was the 3rd floor. Before we opened the stairwell door, we masked up and went on air. We then proceeded down the long hallway to the left, where the hallway kind of made a Y. The hallway was heavily concentrated with dark black smoke, and you could barely see the guy in front of you. As we made it to the room of suspected origin, you could see the fire bellowing out of the room and into the hallway. The walls and doors across the hall were already charred and black at that time. The heat was considerable just standing in the hallway right there. We then were ordered to search the adjacent rooms for victims. We quickly discovered that if anybody was still in their rooms on that wing of that floor, they would not be alive. So we turned around and resumed searching the alternate wing of that floor. So we had to force entry on every room that we came to, because this was early in the morning and all the doors were locked. We used our tools, which took on average probably 3 to 4 swings to actually gain entry. Most of them were deadbolt locked. The first room we forced, we found a female victim that was unconscious. We drug her out in the hallway and then down we drug her out into the hallway and then down the long hallway to where we could see a little bit better. And at that point, we picked her off the ground and put her on our shoulder, and then took her down to the stairwell into the lobby where EMS could attend to her. At that point, we decided that there was, possibly more victims on the fire floor. At that point, we were already pretty gassed. We decided to go back up into the stairwell and to the 3rd floor and resume our search where we left off. So we forced the next door and found another unconscious female victim that we drug out and down the hallway and then down the stairwell. Then there was a company there in the lobby that took her from us at that point. So immediately turned around, went back, went to the next door, and this is where we found probably our largest victim. It was a male victim, and he was unconscious on his stomach at the time we found him. We turned him over, and I remember him gasping at that point, which he probably had agonal respirations. So we decided to, we got webbing out and we wrapped a quick harness around him because we knew it was going to be, tough to get him down that long hallway. So we were able to rig him up with some webbing and take him down the hallway and into the stairwell, where at that point we actually had ran into Engine 31's crew, and they helped us then get him down the stairwell and into the lobby. At that point, we had exhausted our bottles. So Engine 28 had actually helped out, got us new fresh bottles, and we decided to go back up. Then at that point, we found 3 more victims, luckily that could walk with assistance. Some of the rooms also were vacant on that floor and without furniture, so those were quick, we were able to sweep those pretty quick and realize that, there was no occupants of those rooms. All of the rooms that we, had forced and entered were full of smoke, of course, and the patients that we did find, most of them had soot, covering their faces, their airways, so they had been, succumbed to quite a bit. Following our 6th and last rescue, we had no air left, and so we made our way to the lobby, and at that point, when we got to the lobby, this was our 2nd bottle that we had exhausted. We were ordered to go to rehab and get our vitals checked. And pretty much at that point, that's where our search ended. I wouldn't hesitate to say that, of course, between the resources that, between Cap and I, and the conditions, that were present, it was not only physically demanding and one of the hardest things, I probably have ever gone through, but mentally, it was pretty exhausting as well, as you can tell. I don't know if I'll ever, make another fire like that again in my career, but if I did, I'd definitely do it again with Cap.
foremost, I do want to just recognize Jaime Martinez. He left. Ernest, where's Jaime? Stepped out, but he was here. Great leader in the community. One of our own retired firefighters. He's running for state representative. John Lujan's here. We'll take some questions from the media, but I do want to just end with, these firefighters are receiving the Medal of Valor for their conspicuous gallantry and extraordinary acts of heroism. Now that's for San Antonio. We were in support of Castle Hills. We do that for each other, so I know they'll probably have their own process as well. But what our guys did that day and what every firefighter and paramedic does on a daily basis should not be taken for granted. We stand before the citizens of San Antonio, proud to protect them and serve them. Yet, there are those who believe that we make too much money. Our benefits are too rich. I challenge them to perform to the levels we do every day by putting our lives on the line. That's right. I challenge them to perform to the levels we do every day. I also challenge them to find a better group of men and women who do more with less. That's those guys in uniform. Thank y'all for coming. Did I leave anybody out? Thank you for coming. That ends our first Heroes Ceremony recognition.